economic times, wounded warriors, suicide prevention, anybody that was in the after that. It was very embarrassing and all those different things. But I did that, and the judge goes, "Okay, I've got a lot to do it." And all those things. And I finally took a drive one day up to the mountains of Arizona. I wrote my letter to say goodbye to my family and why I was doing it. And the other thing was nobody knew any of this was going on. I kept it all to myself. And I took a drive one day and put the gun in my mouth, and I was like a split second from pulling the trigger. I mean, it was right there. And I said in my mind, God, I don't want to do this. If you help me get through this, I'll take full responsibility for everything I've done, and I'll use it to do some good. I had no idea what that meant. I just said that in my mind. And I put the gun down, and God answered that prayer. And I didn't take my life that day. And if you figure visually, I was up in the mountains of Arizona, came back to the Valley of the Sun, they call it, and dealt with all the junk. And that was like a year and a half, 2 years of all the legal. And I remember going before the judge because I had to plead to one count. You know, they plead it all down and give you a deal. And I remember my attorney saying to me, Scott, I can't do anything for you. You've already admitted what you've done. I had wrote emails to try to restructure my debt and raised my hand when I got stuck and said, you guys got to help me through this. So I had all the paper trail of that with all the different insurance companies and regulatory agencies. And he said, all I can do is mitigate your prison sentence. That's the best I can do here. So I said, okay. So I go to court. I'll never forget it, in June of that summer in Arizona. And it's very hot. And I remember going down there and I had to plead. Mr. Helmer, how do you plead? I plead guilty. That was the most demoralizing day of my life to publicly have to say that. It was very embarrassing and all those different things. But I did that. And the judge goes, okay, I've got a lot of information to review on your case. I'll see you back here September 1st for your sentencing. So I always say, needless to say, that was the longest, hottest summer of my life, waiting to go to prison. And my attorney said, you're going to go for a year, a couple of years. And so I was already making plans to do that. And I had the plan when I got done, I was going to get out and tell my story to the world that no matter how bad things get, you can make a comeback, and suicide is never the answer. And that was my message. And I was planning on what I was going to do. And I knew I was going to do that with music, right, in some capacity. So I go to September 1st, go down to court. And the only thing that kept me out of jail and not going to prison was they scooped all my records and they saw that I didn't spend the money on frivolous things. They saw that I was really paying the rent payment for the offices, salaries, paying insurance premiums, things like that. And I remember the attorney said, or the judge said, Mr. Helmer, I don't know why you're here in my courtroom today. You reached out so many times to ask for help and nobody helped you. And remember, this is 2011 now, right? A couple of years after the 2008 crash. And he goes, I think if people knew what was going to happen in the world in 2008, they would have been a bit more apt to help you. So I want you to go back, pay the debt back, and get on with your life and be a productive member of society. So that's what I did. Walked out of that courtroom and I borrowed a pickup truck from my mom and started traveling America doing fundraisers, basically wounded warriors, suicide prevention, anybody that would book me to play some music, have a good time, have a fundraiser, and have that message embedded that no matter how bad things get, you can always make a comeback and suicide is never the answer. So that was the first thing. So, and I have to tell people, we're in one of the most difficult economic times I've ever seen. This is worse than '08, or I think it's going to get worse than '08. And, we don't have to get into specifics, but I know everyone's struggling. And I will tell everybody that's hearing my voice, suicide is not the answer. You can endure, you can make a comeback, tell people that you're struggling, and people working together will help you get through whatever you need to get through. Because I did it all on my own for a long time, and I wish I would have asked for help sooner to get out of my mess. I've played probably, a couple hundred fundraising shows, and we've raised a few $1 million. I think we're over about $4 million for those causes at those fundraising concerts. But the thing I learned was a little 7-year-old girl that didn't get a date for the dance maybe wants to take her own life, or a middle-aged man that lost his job and his whole identity is built around his job for his family. that might be a reason he wants to take his own life. Or a kid, because his parents got divorced, they may want to do it. So I always tell people, go easy and with love in this world, because everyone's fighting a battle. Everybody's fighting and has some kind of internal struggle. And you may never know it. You may never see it. They may put on a good mask and not show it to you. But I've learned that whatever those people are going through, and I use my thing was I lost all my money and I was a disgrace to my family and my grandfather, that I did that and took that money that didn't belong to me and used it to try to keep the business open. That was one of the most shameful things I could have ever done. And that was my reason. But what may seem like a frivolous thing to you and I, like, oh, I didn't get a date for the dance in 7th grade. That's a reason some people that may be the biggest thing in their life, that the biggest letdown or challenge they've ever seen. And so I always say, go easy and with love whenever possible in this world, because everybody's fighting a battle, right? So the Guinness thing. So that's kind of the backstory. And then I just started doing fundraising concerts and got bigger and bigger and bigger. And so that's been a little part of my history. But when we hit the $1 million mark, I said, I got to do something cool, something special to commemorate that. So that's when I set out to do the Guinness World Record for most live concerts in 24 hours. And it was a charity event. So I had to do it 2 years in a row. The first year I did it, it went totally haywire. We did it the following year. I got the record. So there you go. If you could go to a Toys R Us or a Walmart and they still had those books, you could find it, but they don't even sell them anymore. I don't think so.
That's quite the story. Very inspirational.